where not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history. What body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psephology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out.
Friday Java on the 19th of July, 2019, beaming from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. Well, we made it to Friday, I suppose. This is Boston Red here on in the Jerry Pippin broadcast booth. Very hot climate across the U.S., 100 degrees in Chicago, 100 degrees or very close to it in Washington. Through the Midwest, New England, you name it, it is very, very hot indeed. We'll start off here. Let's see where we're going to start today. We'll look at some polling, I suppose, and we'll go to the people at the University of Virginia, Charlottesville, and we always have a hire when we have this particular update here. And DJ Trump has backed up off of his chance of some of his supporters there. Send her back. Ilhan Omar returned to her home base of Minneapolis and was greeted by her supporters there. Had a town meeting on health care, what a representative is supposed to do. And she has no doubt not backed off of any of the implications there, period. So that is basically it. And looking at Real Clear Politics, nothing new here. We have, let's see, what do we have? We have Wednesday here, a YouGov poll here. In our last episode, we went over this, and we'll have that episode on identity politics. USA will get it posted up. Nonetheless, the YouGov has Biden up by 9, Bernie Sanders at 12, Warren at 19, Harris at 11, Buttigieg at 6, and Beto at 2, Booker at 3, and so forth and so on. In California, it's Harris by 2, Biden 21, Harris 23, pretty much there, and Bernie 18, and Liz Warren 16. So basically that is a statistical tie we're looking at there. So that's basically where we are in terms of the very early polls. The polls are starting to see a little bit of a trend, but not much of a trend, period. So we'll look at this and see where it goes. I was just looking at some of the articles here, and what basically it's real clear. They have a selection, and we ask that you look at some of these, period. This one by Godfrey Skilly. I hadn't seen him around in a long time. He used to be over at the Crystal Ball. He's not there anymore. Now, let's see. He's at the 538. We'll get this up on Twitter here. Nonetheless, we knew picking 20 names out of a box. Who knew? Sorry about that. Could be so entertaining. A live draw held. It was Thursday on CNN. Former Vice President Joe Biden, Kamala Harris are set for a rematch, while Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, the leading progressive candidates, face not only a potential clash with each other, but also with moderate members of the party. So it's kind of interesting here, set each night on stage. And remember, this is a CNN-sponsored debate. Thus, you have a monopoly news network sponsoring the debate and has some control over what happens in the debate. Set each night's stage, CNN created 3 groups of candidates based on polling since the first debate. For each night, getting 5 of the 10 candidates below the 1%, 3 of the 6 candidates polling between 1 and 10, and 2 of the 4 leading candidates above 10%. So this is basically how it is set up here. Combined for no undercard this time around for each night, and the second debates here. So this will be on July the 30th. You'll have Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, he's at 15.1, Elizabeth Warren 13.1, Pete Buttigieg, who is at 5, Beto O'Rourke, and Amy Klobuchar here, Marianne Wilson, Hickenlooper is some of the bottom of the card there. They have a total support of 37.5. Their average support is 3.25. And on the second night, the last night of the month, Joe Lunchbox Biden will be there. He's 25.5. And Kamala Harris, and she'll be there to try to make points. Then there is Senator Booker from New Jersey. He's at 2. And Andrew Yang, Julio Castro out of San Antonio, Taisha Galbert, Michael Bennett, I should say, Inslee, a bunch of long shots here, and their total is 45.2. The average support is 4.52. So in other words, you'll see a big matchup here, or a matchup, I should say, between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. No doubt Cory Booker will try to get into the act as much as he possibly can do. Who will win this debate? It'll be very interesting to see what comes out of it at this stage of the game. Biden will try to hold his own, no doubt about that. And we'll have a situation here where Cory Booker will do the best he can, and some of the lesser-known candidates here, Bill de Blasio, he's going virtually nowhere. Kristen Gillibrand, she's in this, I don't forget about her. She is a good debater. We'll look forward to seeing what she does, and we'll, of course, evaluate it at the last. Let's see what else Godfrey has here. Undoubtedly, a major storyline will be Biden and Harris facing off again. In the first debate, of course, had fireworks there. Harris criticized Biden for his work with segregation senators and opposing busing. How Biden and Harris fare this time could be meaningful for African American voters who have largely been sticking with some of the early polling with Joe Biden. Also be interesting Sanders and Warren. Well, that will be interesting as Sanders and Warren occupy the same lane within the party. And how the reaction of the other people, Pete Buttigieg and Beto O'Rourke. This would be a time for Beto O'Rourke to actually shine. O'Rourke's candidacy and how they they compete for some of the same votes in the first debate. It was a civil debate, although the draw successfully avoided having too many top-tier candidates on the same night. The randomness of the draw did lead to some imbalances, notably on the 30th of July. Will only feature European candidates, while all the non-European candidates will take the stage on the 31st. That's interesting. I didn't notice that. Although they will be joined by Sanders and Warren, this could be an opportunity for moderate candidates to gain upon so-called left-wingers this way. He is the elections analyst, Godfrey Skelly, at the 5:38 now, where he is. Anyway, this will be the final opportunity many of the low-polling candidates to break out. How they break out, one does not know. They'll just be forced to deal with retail politics as such. Let's go to the we'll go to Larry Sabato here. We usually have him on this end. It's Carl Klondike is the managing editor at Crystal Ball on the 18th of July. The Supreme Court recent decision to stay out of adjudicating gerrymandering doesn't necessarily change anything because the court has never put limits on partisan redistricting in the first place. Now, the title of this is the 2020 redistricting an early look. Republicans are still slated to control the drawing of many congressional districts more than the Democrats. Following the 2020 census, all there's reason to believe that their power will not be as great as it was following the last census 10 years ago. How aggressively majority parties in a number of small and medium states are targeting incumbents of minority parties following 2020 may help tell us whether the Supreme Court decisions will lead to more aggressive gerrymandering. The Supreme Court decision was a 5-4 there. Racho versus Common Cause last month reiterated something that has always been true. There's no court-enforced limits on partisan gerrymandering. Again, this is really not a change. While the court has suggested at times, such as in 2004, this was Vilfy versus Jubilera. Anyway, it may be that this ruling could allow gerrymandering to become even more aggressive in the future, although it seems there's already a maximum aggressiveness. For instance, one North Carolina Republican whose party offered not just one but two effective congressional gerrymanders this decade. Bluntly conceded they have drawn maps designed to elect 10 Republicans and 3 Democrats because I don't believe it's possible to draw a map with 11 Republicans. Part of the reason lawmakers can be so blunt and frank about partisan gerrymandering is by using such language seeks to define their behavior as something that is legal and always has been legal. Partisan gerrymandering. The courts still weigh in against districts that constitute racial gerrymandering, which is illegal. Who draws the lines? First of all, we don't precisely know exactly how many seats Republicans will hold sway over, how many the Democrats will, and how many will be decided through bipartisan and nonpartisan methods in 2019-2020. Following the 2010 election, that was the last time, Republicans had power to draw 193 districts, while the Democrats had power to draw only 44. So Republicans have been much more redistricting power, had much more redistricting power than the Democrats. Now, this is Stephen Wolf, writing in the Daily Cause, a redistricting expert and liberal critic of gerrymandering, found that Republicans currently control redistricting levers in states containing 179 districts, while Democrats only 49. This tells you the imbalance here. While Republicans have lost their dominance in some key places, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, Wisconsin have bluntly, from a decade ago, the current controlled districts also does not take into account reapportionment following the census speaking out. And according to this report in 2018, the Election Data Services, here's some current projections. Arizona +1, Colorado will gain 1, Florida will gain 2, Montana +1, North Carolina 1, Oregon 1, and Texas will pick up 3 seats. The losers will be Alabama, California, 1 or even, Illinois will lose 1, Michigan will lose 1, Minnesota will lose 1 or even, New York will lose 2, Ohio 1, Pennsylvania 1, Rhode Island 1, and West Virginia 1. But overall, the trend for decades, the South and the West, particularly Florida and Texas, are gaining seats at a rapid rate, and that explains why Florida is very important. Of course, California, different situation there, has become pretty much a solid Democratic state. Assessing the partisan consequences of some of these shifts, in fact, they occur, are easy enough. If Rhode Island is -1, West Virginia is -1, each indeed loses a seat. The Democrats will lose 1 or 2 seats in the Ocean State, and the Republicans will lose 1 of 3 seats in the Mountain State. Alabama has only 1 Democratic district as is, while almost surely will be protected by majority minority districts. In Texas, they will get 3 additional ones. Seems to be becoming less Republicans there. Democrats pick up a couple of seats and came close to winning several others. That's a change in Texas. And newly elected Representative Colin Allred, Texas 32, Lizzie Fletcher, Texas 7, wins second terms next year. Republicans could give them safe seats, as well as shoring up neighboring Republican seats there, which is currently the balance in Texas is 23-13. In Florida, +2 may be blunted by state-specific reforms. Previous gerrymandering was already back in 2015. The state Supreme Court ordered changes based on the state constitution, may be less receptive to acting against gerrymandering. In Illinois, they will lose 1. Democrats also control the process. A decade ago, will be facing challenges with eliminating a seat and showing up some new incumbents on the current map there as Republican votes shrank in Illinois, allowing a Democrat, Sean Casten, that's at only 6, and Laura Underwood, Illinois 14, to actually win both districts in 2018. And then we have Rodney Davis as Illinois 13, who won a narrow victory in 212 and in 218. And we'll probably be inclined to help Cheryl Bartos in 17. And where gerrymandering district is, whose district is trending Republican here. And California, maybe -1, has nonpartisan process that undoubtedly helped Democrats this decade. Netted a dozen seats this decade, creating a lopsided 46 to 47. You can see where California has went. New York will lose 2. We'll try a nonpartisan districting plan there. Arizona +1, Colorado +1. Arizona has been trending a bit more progressive in the last couple of decades. Oregon will pick up 1. I'm surprised by this. Is controlled by Democrats, hold a 4-1 edge statewide. Presumably they will try to make it a 5-1 of there. Montana will pick up a seat, gets its second district following the 1990 reapportionment, so they're getting 1 back. Ohio will lose a seat, and winnable will create Senate around Cincinnati, Toledo, where Tim Ryan, he's in 13 Democrats, but the Republican trending seats that run from Akron to Youngstown could split several ways, potentially making it difficult for Ryan to win re-election in 2022. North Carolina, they'll pick up a seat. Democrats control the state Supreme Court. It made it beginning hearing on gerrymandering there in North Carolina is unusual in that the governor, Cooper, a Democrat up for re-election next year, has no role in redistricting. That was made by the North Carolina Democrats back in the 1990s, when moderate to conservative Democrats still held the majority positions throughout the state. I remember that. They observed the authors of the 2014 Almanac of American Politics. Beyond these reinforcement changes, it would be interesting to see if partisan majorities in one-party states will crank up their gerrymandering, and they mention here control the states like Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, and South Carolina, and Tennessee. They could attempt to break apart districts of like Arnie Carlson out of Indianapolis and John Yarmouth out of Kentucky, and Emmanuel Cleaver, he's out. That is Missouri 5. He's out of St. Louis. And Kendra Horn, she's Oklahoma 5. And Joe Cunningham, South Carolina, the Democrat, South Carolina 1. John Cooper in Tennessee. These members, assuming these members are re-elected in 2020, Congress, Carlson and Cunningham among the most vulnerable House Democrats. Their efforts would generally involve cracking big Democrat-heavy urban areas into smaller pieces. Indianapolis there, and in Maryland, who holds a veto-proof majority there, thus overruled the Republican governor on districting matters in Maryland. So that is Maryland, and then we have, let's see what else there. Democrats currently control the process in Nevada, New Mexico, where they may be able to shore up newly elected people in Torres, Small in New Mexico, and Susie Lee in Nevada. So all of this will be rather interesting to see where they end up in this districting fight. Let's move on here to, not here, sorry about that. I think we covered before the send you back episode here, and where it brings itself more out than not. Let's jump around here a little bit. BBC had the same headline here. Basically, it shows a crowd welcoming Ilhan Omar back to her Minnesota district. I don't know if we can get any of this audio here or not. We'll try to do it. Not certain if we can or we cannot. We will try to bring Ilhan in here. This is a district occupied by the progressive Keith Ellison at one time there in Minnesota. So it is a very progressive district, and she was well received by the hometown crowd as she came from the airport there and appeared. It doesn't seem like we'll get this anyway. Sometimes we do, and let me get a related story in here while we wait on this. Ilhan and Rashina Tlaib are going to Israel, and Israel will not prohibit them from visiting. That will be next month. They'll be on that tour, and out of respect for the U.S. Congress and the great alliance between Israel and the U.S., we will not deny entrance to any member of Congress into Israel. I am going in a couple of weeks, so I learn more, but truly point to both sides as still being occupied. She told this is Omar told the Jewish Insider after a House Foreign Affairs. She's on that committee. Tlaib, who is a Palestinian, plans to visit her relatives in the West Bank over the August recess. Omar and Tlaib, the two Muslim women to serve in the Congress, are supporters of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement known as BSD movement. We also support that. This week, Omar sponsored a resolution with John Lewis to affirm America's right to use boycotts to further civil rights at home and abroad. Though the language of her resolution is broad, it's intended to oppose efforts on the Capitol Hill to protect states that ban companies participating here. We cannot simultaneously say we want peace and openly oppose peaceful means to hold our allies accountable. It recognizes the proud history of the boycott movement, this movement dating back to the Boston Tea Party. Omar and to a lesser extent Tlaib have been pouted by right-wing media and President Trump since arriving in Washington. No doubt. The pile-on has been there. Over the weekend, Trump sent a tweet referring to Omar, Tlaib, and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Ayanna Presley, all women of color, telling them to go back to countries from which they came. Omar, incidentally, became a citizen in 2000, so she's been a citizen for 19 years. And that's why the crowd shouted, send her back, send her back. Let me just wrap up a little bit of business. Cooperstown, the baseball Hall of Fame will be this weekend. We'll have special coverage on it. And let me just get to one other thing here. This is the Africa Cup of Nations. Algeria has won the Africa Cup of Nations over Senegal. And we'll fall back on the BBC here. Dominated the tournament. Sorry about that. This is not where we wanted to go here. This is the Washington Post article after the fact, but it's all over now. But as they say, crying. Anyway, it was a 1-0 match there. But Algeria wins over Senegal. Most people in the U.S. don't really understand the passion in many of these nations for football or soccer, and in the African nation it is center stage. There is no doubt about it. It is one of the biggest events that can occur, and to see these nations develop. The cup was held in Cairo, Egypt, and is, of course, back to the domination. Now, Algeria having, of course, a connection with France, and so Senegal. So 1-0 was the score here with these, and basically won the African World Cup of Nations for the second time, as a freaky early goal secured a 1-0 win against Senegal. And Senegal did make it to the finals. And let me see who won the elimination round here. Well, we'll have to get that. Nonetheless, this will end today's coverage. Tomorrow we'll have Carl Robe, and we'll also have some words from Charlie Cook. Well, we got Godfrey Skelly back again. He used to be, of course, with the Crystal Ball. So we did get some diversity of opinion in here, and this is what we try to do at WBRN. Nonetheless, have a good weekend, everyone, and we will see you on the Monday morning I'm thinking ahead of myself. On the week that was, that's on Saturday morning. Good day.